Welcome to the first satsang of the year, and I thought we'll start with Swami Kriyananda's New Year's Eve talk from 1979, largely because I thought it had application to us, because those were the early years of Ananda, when Swami was still, building this whole work of Ananda. And so I thought that our situation at the moment is very much like what Ananda was in those years. And so we might kind of, learn something from it. So Bernie's downloaded that.
The superconscious.
Carry on.
You sure?
I said I shared this on our Ananda page, but I don't know how many of you have had a chance to even download and listen to it. So we will do it now. Yeah, exactly.
It's right.
Seminars, superconscious living seminars, and how to meditate and so on. Then I'm only able to reach the few people who know that that's what they want. But my belief is that there are a lot of people out there who don't know that that's what they want, but it is what they want. A lot of people would love God if they didn't have this block in their mind that God is an angry old man, or that God is a man rather than a universal consciousness. They have certain preconceived ideas about the spiritual path, and if they can be shown that whatever it is that they're looking for in life is a beginning of a search that can lead them on and on and on to infinity, many people would, I think, come to the path and get really deeply into it. I've worried about this because, well, for example, when I consider what I saw in some of the group gatherings that I attended last year, a lot of people were talking very strongly about some of the ideas that I myself have worked on in trying to reach people, and it seemed like a dilution to me. And yet here at Christmas I found that people have come from so many different directions and yet are so involved. Some have come, for example, from a seminar I gave on sort of survival techniques, which doesn't seem in itself a spiritual thing, and yet they're really involved with Ananda and everything that Ananda stands for. And when I saw the spirit that was so angelic at Christmas time, I realized that it isn't a dilution if you reach out to where people are. It's an application, and there's a big difference. If you take the teachings and apply them to where people are, but don't give them the impression that that's all you're teaching, merely show that this is what I can help you with, and then let them know there's more, they get drawn further and further toward something that's much more meaningful to us. And I remembered, on the other hand, too, that when I was the first person from Master's work to visit Australia, the first person to give Kriya Yoga on the Australian continent. And that was 21 years ago, and I went back there 2 years ago, and I found a much smaller group than when I was there. And I was sort of sad to see that it had shrunk. Many of the old people had died and nobody was coming, and they said, well, but we have the sincere ones. And I thought, I don't think that's true. I've been meeting a lot of sincere people who aren't being drawn, because it isn't, because it's a closed thing. If we keep the teachings just for those people who are already into meditation, already into devotion, already into God alone, I'm afraid we're going to have a closed corporation and a little sort of a cliquish kind of club. Whereas if we make a broad enough base but always show them that this core is here that they can come to, then that isn't a dilution. And what I had felt in some of these meetings that I'd gone to, I was put off, really. But what I felt was that it was a dilution because this was all they had to give. They were trying to say that this is our message. Be rich, be wealthy, be happy, be successful. And that's what superconscious living is using God to help you find a new parking place. And I felt sort of wondering about that, because really my interest is teaching devotional things. I want to draw people to that, but it's if you can get more people started and interested and then give them to it, think how many more people you can help that way. than if you keep it on such a purified level that most people are afraid to even start. So in this country today, it seems to me as if we've got to reach out to people where they are, and with that broad base gradually bring them in. And I was really reassured on that point at Christmas time, because I saw so much here that indicated that there hasn't been anything but a strengthening of that spiritual consciousness and that consciousness of devotion. It hasn't at all been a dilution to try to apply these teachings to these different levels. There's another aspect to it, though, and that is that there's so little that one body can do. Even if it goes to many places, there's so little ground it can cover. It can only be in one place at a time. And I've wanted to get other people teaching, but the crowds come when I'm there. Mine is the name that's known, and I'm the one who's had the experience in it, and I'm the one who knew Master, and all those things seem to be a plus to the extent that people wait for me to be there. And so it's a bit discouraging when you're trying to reach out to those people for them to think in that way. But what to do about it was the question. And I proposed to people in San Francisco an idea that I think could be very useful. If we stop thinking if we think not only in terms of what we have to give, but of what other people need, and how we can apply what we have to give to what they need. In business management, in healing, in salesmanship, in law enforcement, in all kinds of fields, they need many things that we have a great right to teach, because we've learned much on the level of cooperation with one another, cooperation with truth, cooperation with higher principles. We could teach them things that would blow their minds. They're so different from the kinds of things they learn. And if we don't say you're coming to a class on yoga, but give them yoga when they come, in addition to other things, if we can get people like Yogendra and Walt Bonville and people with really solid credentials in the field, people I think would pay a lot of money to come to these things. That would be one way we could perhaps build our retreat, is if we had such seminars. So we were thinking of having seminars on cooperative management, cooperative treatment, cooperative salesmanship, trying to show how spiritual principles can be brought into business, into healing. Very often, for lack of spiritual principles, our country has gone the direction of cynicism. But really, spiritual principles apply everywhere, because God is everywhere. And if we can show that in a way that won't put them off, for instance, if we were to teach moral management, nobody would come. Cooperative management, maybe they'd come. That kind of approach, anyway, I think is something that could work. And we could get people teaching that whom people would come for. And then I could go on concentrating on superconscious living and drawing people more and more into the hub of the work. And in that respect, there was another very interesting thing that happened in Rome. The publisher was actually rather lukewarm. He's quite enthusiastic now, but at the time when the books were when they were working on getting the books out, he was sort of faint-hearted. And there was a man in the office who was really keen on getting them out, and he kept pushing it, and it was because of his enthusiasm that the books got published. And this man was a part of a group of people who meditate every week, and he wanted to take Kriya from me. But none of them really know the techniques, they haven't studied the lessons, and it wouldn't have been fair to them to give them Kriya. But when I tried to tell them that, they looked so crestfallen that I said, Master, give me an inspiration. What can I give them that will be good for them and that will make them happy? And the answer came that what they really want is to be accepted as members of Master's family. They don't want Kriya initiation particularly, they'd like to prepare for that, but they do want to be initiated into his family and to feel that they're a part of Master's family. And so I proposed that to them, and they were just so thrilled. So I had a little meditation and ceremony, and on Master's behalf I welcomed them into his spiritual family, and they were so touched by this. And I remembered that after all, this whole thing of Master's, of initiation into Kriya being initiation into discipleship was something started years after Master's passing. When I met Master, he initiated me as a disciple long before he gave me Kriya. Dr. Lewis, a year before he gave me Kriya. Probably everybody at Mount Washington that knew Master was brought in as an act of initiating a person as a disciple. and Kriya came later. Many people who take Kriya, the initiation as a disciple almost takes second place because they're getting the technique. And yeah, I'm a disciple, but wow, I got Kriya. It would be nice to separate the two. Also, a lot of people are afraid to take that step of becoming disciples because it's tied to a technique and they don't know what the technique is, and they think, well, if I promise to practice it and I don't like it, what am I going to do? And so on. And a lot of people have been on the path for years. I was just talking, somebody was telling me today that there's an SRF member who's very devoted. For 10 years she's been meditating, she hasn't yet taken Kriya. She's afraid of the commitment and everything involved. Whereas if people could feel that they could be accepted as disciples of Master and brought into his family, that I think they would be thrilled with, and they would probably all take Kriya sooner or later once they've taken that step. So I'm thinking that's something that would be really worthwhile. It's the way Master did it, and as a disciple of Master myself, I think I would have a right to act on his behalf if I feel that inspiration, as I certainly did on this evening. So I felt that he'd given me a very wonderful guideline for our future growth. I think that his work will grow by leaps and bounds with this single move. So these are things that I'm thinking about for the new year. And I don't have any real plans right now. I've got commitments in January to go to Los Angeles to the is it the Inner Light Foundation? Is that the name of it, Geshe-la?
Yeah.
Something like that. Paul Solomon's group. And then I'll be at the National Health Federation. A year ago they were doubtful whether I'd really fit into their program at all. And one of their people browbeat the rest of them into letting me talk. Then they had me talk again in San Francisco. And by now they're so happy with having me talk at this thing that they got me on both days lecturing. So even though I'm not well-known in the health field, they seem to like this all-rounded presentation of bringing it in with spiritual truth and so on. Another thought that we have is that we're wanting to really get going on Ocean Song and make it a really strong Ananda community. And if some of you feel that you'd like to go and are free to go or could be freed to go, let me know. I would like to send about 10 people there. I've been talking today with Peter and Maria, and I think it's going to be a really wonderful thing. So, those are a few outward things. We want very much to build our retreat this year, and anything we do, I mean, frankly, these seminars, to a large extent, what I'm hoping for from them is the income to be able to build the retreat. Because you saw Christmas, it was this temple and the Common Dome, and even at that it was crowded. We doubled in size this year, and I think we could easily double in size in one more year. And from then on, who knows? We just have to have new facilities, and we have to have the money to build those new facilities. So if we can get those seminars going, that's one way. If any of you have any rich uncles, let us know. We need donations, and I know one person has expressed interest in helping very much to build the retreat. I hope that happens. So that's another thing that we want. The most important thing of all is a direction that we've grown in gradually over the years that I've been here, and I'm glad that it's gradual. I'm glad that we've gotten a solid base, and that is growing more and more internalized, more and more in tune with the idea of realizing that we are here to find God, and that everything that we do in this world, in the last analysis, doesn't matter. We have to live anyway, and we might as well live in a good way. So to live serving God is living in a good way. To live building a work that can help other people to live for God and serve God is living in a good way. But in the last analysis, none of these things really are very important compared to that one thing, which is our relationship with God. And that's what we want to deepen, not to get into this thought that, oh boy, once we've made a wonderful place here, it'll be heaven on earth, because heaven on earth will never be, except to the extent that people live in a heavenly consciousness, and that means realizing that God alone is the answer to all human striving. That makes heaven on earth because we see the echoes here, but the reality has to be inside ourselves. And something I mentioned in the slideshow when I was showing Encinitas I talked about the wonderful vibrations of Encinitas, the vibrations that Master left there. But I mentioned somebody who had left here to live close to there so that he could go and soak up those vibrations, and that I saw him a year later, and I saw that he'd lost. He didn't have that strength inside. He was sort of a little boy and weak, and I was really sad to see the contrast, because living there, although he's soaking up those vibrations, he's not giving. And I think that the most important thing of all is that when we are instruments, that's when we will grow. Master said, if you want to be in tune with the Guru, serve his work. And how can we serve his work? What we're doing here is a very, very vital kind of service. Some lady wanted to serve Master and phoned Mount Washington and said, I want so much to serve him, what can I do? And they said, well, you can donate clothing to the Voluntary League. We need more. We need to feel that we can put all our energies into it. And Ananda is, to my mind, a starting point for that. I think in time this will be a part of the picture of Master's whole work, where people will understand that this is something wonderful that people can do without necessarily being monks or nuns. Just everybody can live together and work to serve this ideal. When you are, as Master himself said, when you are an instrument for the light, then you become light. When we are an instrument for that divine consciousness by serving it in whatever way we can, and it's all, everything is for God ultimately, but working for IBM, it's a little harder to see it. Whereas when you're working in the dairy and working to help keep a community going of devotees, it's a lot easier to have that consciousness. When we live in that way, that's when we grow. As he said, if you want to be in tune with the Guru, then you must serve his work. And serving his work means perpetuating his ideals, helping to further them. And building a place like this is a very real means of helping to further that work, as we can see quite purely and simply from the results. So let's, during the coming year, have as our resolution this twofold thing. First of all, seeking God ourselves. Seek him more and more deeply, realizing that there is no substitute for that search. No substitute for the effort that you put out. Being in a good place isn't going to do it for you. Master told us once there are plenty of rats and mice in the canyon here on Mount Washington. They aren't finding God. You have to individually make that effort. It's not just being in a spiritual environment. So serving him, meditating on him, and then trying to be trying to be an instrument for him to reach other people. The greatest blessing, Master used to say that if the missionaries would only meditate, they would all find God. Meaning that when you try to help other people also to find God, when you don't just seek him for yourself, but you try to be an instrument for drawing others to that light, this is the greatest way to live of all. So let us live more in that way this year, more in the consciousness of God, more in the consciousness of being a channel for his light. Let that light so shine before men that they shall see your good works and glorify your Father, which is in heaven. Let's meditate now. Let's turn the light.
So, we can see parallels to where we're at. Swami talked about America. For the lack of spiritual values, people are very cynical there. Actually, he said that cynicism arises from lack of spiritual values. And I feel that New Zealand is very much, in that space. I think the last census probably said that very, very few people had any kind of faith. And so when you're doing this sort of work, that in itself is quite a challenge, right? At least in US, the presidents say things like, God bless you and all. Like in our country, the leaders would never use the word God or anything, any synonyms for it either. So it's quite a challenge. But having said that, what comes to mind is we got together, a few of us in Rotorua at Julian's place, And something Julian said that I thought is worth taking note of. He said, this year, I mean, these are probably not his exact words, but this is my understanding. He says, this year, let's just settle into this uncertainty before we make any decisions. I mean, this uncertainty is not going to go away anytime soon, because once you kind of ruffle the feathers or rock the boat, it takes a while for that boat to become still again. And so this uncertainty is going to carry on, but we kind of settle into the uncertainty. And so perhaps this year might be, we kind of just see, okay, what is trying to happen? And I'd also like to take on board what Swami said there about what is it that people need? And can we then, offer them what they need rather than, oh, this is what we've got? And I think the needs of people in any country, in any time, are one and the same, really. Right? Everybody wants good health. Everybody wants to be prosperous and successful. Everyone wants to have harmonious relationships. Everybody wants to be happy and not stressed. So I think some of the common themes, regardless of which age you live in, what year you live in, they're kind of one and the same. But it's how we present it. And in some ways, it's all to do with the marketing. From what Swami was saying there, it seemed like in the early days, he was getting lots of invitations to talk at various places. And maybe, we could, it's something that we could kind of keep at the back of our mind if we can find opportunities to share these teachings in different forums, rather than just with our closed group. Then nothing grows. Like Swami said, people get old and then the group finishes. And so starting to think in terms of how we can, each one of us can be an instrument for Master. We don't have to be teaching per se, but we can be Master's instruments in so many, many ways. We don't have to sit in front of a class and give a talk. So, this year is going to be one of seeing kind of what is trying to happen.
Maybe it's about building a foundation to then build on. When you're talking about settling to build that foundation and something sort of stable, and then build it from there.
Exactly. And the other thing that Swami said there that was that the work of Ananda built gradually. It's not like all of a sudden, like, oh, now we've got our land, oh, now we've got our building. But, things just happen very, very gradually in the natural course of things. Like, yes, we were having our classes in my home for the last 12 years. And then it's a natural thing that, okay, now we come out into the, wide world. What am I?
Big wide world.
The big world, and see, try that out. It's not our premises, we're just hiring it. So in a way, there is no real commitment. But that's when you kind of, it's like trying on shoes. See if this shoe fits. And that's a nice space to be in as well when you're trying things out. And so I think we are in a year where we are just trying things out. What's going to work? Some things will have to be different, like what I was able to do from my home is not necessarily all the things I can do from here. For example, I was doing like the day retreats. I was doing the healing power of silence retreats, and also I think for those sort of retreats you need the ambience, which a place like this in town doesn't quite do it. So what we offer, rather than comparing to, oh, I used to be able to offer this, now I can't, let's look at what can I offer here that I was probably not offering there. And what comes to mind for me is maybe just more short courses. I find that I've got 2 parallel courses being advertised at the moment. One is the 4-week meditation course, and the other one is the meditation for busy people, which is a half-day course. And there's definitely more energy for that half-day course. It's just a 3-hour Sunday afternoon thing after our Sunday service. And it's got more energy than the 4 weeks, because 4 weeks is a huge commitment. And so, we've got a lot of different topics that we can share with everybody. I mean, if you look at the topics in the art and science of Raja Yoga, we could do like a 3-hour workshop on each and every one of those topics. But just, title it in a way that is going to be, in a way that's going to talk to people, like, this will solve such XYZ problem for me. And so I'm thinking more in terms of maybe short courses, one afternoon or one morning this year, and just see how it goes. The other idea I had, and I'm putting it out there because you all can have some intuition on it as well. I haven't acted on this because I'm not sure, but I want to hear from you, not necessarily today, but as you contemplate it. What would it be like if I said 12 months free membership to our group meditation and satsang evening? Would that work? Because when you look at the whole IT, Google and Spotify and all, the way they bring people into the fold is they allow you to use it for free. And then when a time comes, they say, well, your mailbox is getting very full, and if you want, you can buy extra storage for $30 a year, And you think, well, I've got no choice because I've been using it. I've got no other option, and I'm just going to have to buy extra storage with Google. And so I don't know whether a concept like that would work. One of the hesitations I have with that concept is I wouldn't want a completely new person who's very new to meditation to think that they can come and try out meditation on our group meditation evening. Largely because the meditation is too long for somebody who's new. Yeah. And what we talk about is not at the level of somebody who's new. And it could completely put them off. So that's one reason I'm hesitating. I have no hesitation giving it for free.
What made a difference to me, and I struggled because I came to the Wednesday night, I kind of fell into the Wednesday night thing and it grew from there. But I was told, okay, we're going to meditate for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. If it's too much, you can open your eyes, you can look around, you can look at the altar and you can do those things. And that's what I did do. And sometimes I have trouble meditating for a long time. And I break it up by doing that, by opening my eyes and looking at the altar, and I do that because that's what works for me. Because 45 minutes is too much for me. I struggle with it. It's just the way that it is. Yeah. Not because I don't want it, because I do, but it's giving them the understanding that they don't have to, for want of a better word, buy into the whole thing like you're saying. Like it's all too much. So, to give people that opportunity just to say, look, you don't have to do it all at once. think that's what makes a difference.
Yeah, I think a year is too long as well, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to do it, like for me, how I started, I was like, oh, well, I'll come occasionally, you know, that's how it started, do you remember? And I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, and I can't come every week, you know, and it was very like that, because I am a very busy person, and there's a lot of people in that boat. So I think a couple of months, 3 months, something like that, you know what I mean? Come and try and see, you know, see how you say it.
I thought that as well when you were talking before. I thought to break it, you know, to a little shorter time.
Yeah. What were you saying?
Like you say, if you don't pay, you don't appreciate.
That's the other thing, yeah.
That's true as well.
A year is way too long.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
3 months would be
max, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at the moment I have it on the website that you can try a few sessions. So a few is like, you know, you're not really...
When you look at it, 3 months is 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
When you look at it, when you break it down that
Whereas
way.
when you say a few, you can get away with, you know, whatever, like 2, 3, 4.
And I think it's important to have guidance there, you know,
You
when
think?
someone's, you know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah,
I was a bit like, oh, so when do I start paying? You know what I mean? Like, I kept thinking that, but I didn't ask.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, oh God, I've been going a while, I better sort that out, you know?
Yeah. But for me as well, when that class came to the end, and I was kind of like, and I had a conversation with her, and I said, oh, well, what is membership? Could I become a member? You know, could I come more often now that my class is coming to an end? Yeah. So a bit of clarity is a good thing. Because I mean, I'm glad that I asked because I wanted to know, and I thought I was like, do I want to ask? I was kind of like, I was going to say, just ask, you know.
Yeah.
See what happens, but some people are a bit quieter and maybe don't push themselves.
It's good that we're having this conversation. It shows that, you know, each one of us have a desire to take Master's teachings out into the world. And that in itself, you know, makes us instruments. Like we're not here to take. It's when we start giving that's when, you know, we receive from it as well. And likewise, even when we're meditating, when you meditate with the intention of what you can offer rather than what you can get from your meditation practice, like, Master, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this so that I can love you. Rather than, well, I'm meditating so that, you know, I can be more peaceful or whatever it is that you want. You find that in that giving, we start receiving. I mean, sure, you know, we can, meditation can give us many things, including, you know, increasing our powers of concentration to be able to find a path when we want one. But the reality is what we want is, we want to love God. Because in that love, everything else kind of just comes. And what begins to happen when we start to awaken that love in our hearts, you find that there's just greater contentment with life. We don't get startled so much by things that happen in this world, and things are always happening. It's like, you know, at first when we started using this space, I noticed how noisy things outside were. I mean, today we haven't really heard any sirens, but there were a lot of sirens the first time we were here. But then after a while, you kind of, you know, just, you don't react to that noise that's out there.
You zone out a little bit. It's not quite so...
and you know, and likewise to things that happen in our life as well. When we start cultivating the heart, when we start developing love for God, it's like the system, our whole nervous system cools down. We're not sitting on the edge so much. I said I was going to talk about metaphysical meditations, but we've only got 3 minutes. We can always do that.
For me, what resonated when Swami was talking, and I see you kept looking at me and smiling at me, and I was laughing as well. But I mean, it was true, and one of the things that put me off was somebody telling me, well, there's not much point of you being here if you're not going to get Kriya. And that stuck in my mind, and that put me off very much. And I still wanted to be part of the group, and I know I was very slow at it, and I took my own time, and I was being a little bit stubborn because I had to have my Kriya, and I wasn't going to have it. But that was kind of that's just one person how they did that to me, and I kind of thought, well, can I be part of this if I don't get Kriya? Do I have to make this great big commitment? And what Swami was saying really resonated with me, because yes, I did want to be a disciple, and I did want to be part of it without, getting my Kriya straight away. And now I'm ready to do it in my own time. But it's how people talk to newbies that kind of makes a difference. Where you just kind of feel like you can do things and break it down a little bit and just do that little bit and a little bit without it being so overwhelming.
On this path we have got so many different avenues, so many different ways we can be part of this work, and whatever works for one person, that's fine. Some people are interested because they just love the music.
Yeah.
And if that's all you do, that's enough, because you will learn the whole philosophy just through singing Swami's songs.
Yeah.
Which is lovely.
Yeah.
And some people just love being in our company. And through magnetism, they will receive.
And people respond to the retreat as well. The environment of the retreat is another thing. When people come to classes, they're kind of taken back, like, wow, look where this is.
And now we just have to create this environment here. I've got a little suitcase, and I'm planning to put all the books in that suitcase and sort of, just laying out the table here. It doesn't matter whether anybody buys or not buys, but I think in the time that we are in this space, it's nice to set it up like it's ours. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And a lot of the rewards just come from putting out that energy.
But the books is another way of showing people that it's not just this.
That's right, that we have a lot more.
There's books on all these different concepts.
Just before we finish, what do you think about tomorrow's class? That's the meditation for beginners. Should we put the altar or should we not put the altar?
It's a hard one, because people come in and they go, oh, okay, I didn't know that this is what this is.
I'd put it up.
Put it up?
Yeah.
The web page through which people are registering is titled Walk the Path of Kriya Yoga. So, I think I might.
You could put it up and say, say as you normally do, that this is where the teachings come from. And this is a big aspect of how I learned it. You don't have to say, oh, look, this is it, this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just coming in, when I remember coming in and seeing the Masters for the first time, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's Jesus. And it felt more comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing, I was looking and going, is that Jesus? Is that really Jesus? What's going on there?
I don't know what that was, but I was focusing on you. and that was it. You know what I mean? That was the oh, this person's got something I want. Didn't really matter.
Yeah, I think as Shelley said, you know, some people might not even notice that there is something there. Yeah. I suppose we are trying to see from the other person's eyes. And in some ways we can never really see through another person's eyes, can we? So anyway, it'll be nice if we could just leave it there, because nobody's going to be using this hall, but at the same time I don't want to, because in case one of their members comes, you know, during the day and they think, oh, you know, it's like, it's not.
Right,
So what time tomorrow? Shall I come about 6 and help to set up? And
Yeah, if you want to.
yeah, no, I'm Peter. I'm asking you what time would you like me to come?
So I'll probably get here by about 6:15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to come at 6:30, so 6:30.
Yeah, that's fine. 6:30 is fine too. Just
right?
whenever you can. Yeah.
Okay.
You are child free, eh? So let's finish with that prayer that we do each time is actually in that first bit of this book, which is about devotion. Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Friend, beloved God,
friend, beloved God,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
our Kriya Yoga Masters,
our Kriya Yoga Masters,
and saints of all religions,
and saints of all religions,
beloved Swamiji,
beloved Swamiji,
we humbly bow to you all.
we humbly bow to you all.
May thy love shine forever
May thy love shine forever
on the sanctuary of our devotion,
on the sanctuary of our devotion,
and may we be able to awaken
and may we be able to awaken
thy love in all hearts.
thy love in all hearts.
Peace. Amen.